Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about Priam, the famous king of Troy. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Overall, King Priam is most probably the most famous king of Troy, mostly due to the Iliad. As King Agamemnon was the leader of the Achaean forces, by the way, we have already a video about him. In this video we'll talk about the leader of the Trojan forces, namely King Priam. Priam was the son of King Laomedon of Troy, probably born to Laomedon's wife Strimo. Depending on the source, other names that come up as his mother are Plakia, Zevxippe or Levkippe. Laomedon was known to have had a number of sons, including Lampus and Clytius, and several daughters, including Hesione, the mother of Teucer through Telamon. Nevertheless, the original name given to Priam when born was Podarkis. The change of his name has to do with the past actions of the Greek hero Heracles and Priam's father Laomedon. Heracles came to Troy when the city was under attack by disease and a sea monster, the attacks being the retribution of Poseidon and Apollo after Laomedon had refused to pay them for work done. Heracles promised Laomedon to free Troy from the attacks if the king would promise to give him the swift horses of Troy in payment. Laomedon agreed to the deal, and on the beach outside of Troy, Heracles slew the sea monster after 3 days of fighting. With the death of the monster, the pestilence also left Troy, but when Heracles went to Laomedon to receive his payment, the king refused and locked the city gates against the hero. Heracles would later return to Troy with several ships of men, including Telamon, and the hero laid siege to the city. Heracles would eventually breach the walls and enter the city, and the Greek hero would kill Laomedon. Moreover, Heracles would also kill all of Laomedon's children, except Hesione, who was assigned as a war prize to Telamon and Podarkis. Furthermore, Heracles allowed Hesione to take with her whomever of the captives she wanted. When Hesione chose Podarkis, Heracles said that her brother must first be a slave and then be ransomed by her. So, when the price was decided, Hesione took the golden veil from her head and gave it as a ransom. Hence Podarkis was thereafter called Priam, from priame meaning to buy. Having had his life spared, Priam then found himself elevated to the status of a king, for Heracles put the Trojan prince upon the throne, making him ruler of Troy. Troy would prosper under the leadership of Priam, the city's walls were rebuilt, and the military strength of Troy would grow. Priam was even said to have led the forces of Troy when allied with the Phrygians in a war against the Amazons. As money flowed into Troy through trade, so Priam built himself a magnificent palace, a palace built from a brilliant white marble comprising many hundreds of different rooms. Afterwards, King Priam would take a few consorts who were Hecuba, Castianira, Laothoi and Alexiroi or Arispi. Depending on the source that you study, King Priam was said to have fathered 50 sons and 50 daughters, or 68 sons and 18 daughters. Fact though remains that he had many children. Many of the children of King Priam would become famous, and amongst the sons were the likes of Hector, Paris, Aeschylus and Helenus, and some of the daughters were Cassandra, Laodice and Polyxena. The relationship between King Priam and his son Paris is arguably one of the most important ones in Greek mythology, for it was Paris who would bring about the downfall of Troy. Of his marriage with Hecabe, Hector was born first, but when a second child was about to be born, Hecabe dreamt that she had brought forth a firebrand, which destroyed the city of Troy. Aeschylus, who could interpret dreams, said that the child was to become the ruin of his country, and advised to expose him. When the child was born, King Priam, following the prophecy, gave his son to a servant, Agelaus, in order to be exposed on Mount Ida, not far away from Troy. However, the child, having been nursed 5 days by a bear, survived, and when Agelaus returned and found him safe, he carried the child away, called him Paris, and brought him up as his own son. Paris would of course cause the downfall of Troy, as his abduction of Helen of Sparta and stealing some of the Spartan treasures would bring forth an armada of 1,000 ships full of fighting men to the very gates of Troy. Priam though did nothing to avert the danger to his city when representatives of the Achaean forces came to Troy to demand the return of Helen and the stolen treasure, siding with the wishes of Paris that Helen should remain within the city. The other children of King Priam would become famous because of their activities during the Trojan War when the Achaean forces laid siege to Troy for 10 years. Priam though was already said to be advanced in age, and so the king of Troy did not take an active role in the defense of the city, and the role of the defender of Troy was given to Priam's son Hector. During the Trojan War though, Priam is famous for one act, for he braved the camp of the enemy when his son Hector was slain by Achilles. After Hector killed Achilles' cousin Patroclus, the rage of Achilles had been such that the body of Hector had been desecrated, and the heralds of Troy had been unable to ransom the body. Zeus though looked down on Priam with some pity, and had Hermes escort the king into the Achaean camp. Priam effectively begs Achilles to return the body of his son, so that it can be buried with honors. The words of Priam moved Achilles so that he agrees, and also ensures that a temporary truce follows to allow for funeral games to be held in honor for Hector. Homer's Iliad finishes before the downfall of Troy, but other writers in antiquity took up the tale, and it is a tale that includes the death of King Priam. When Priam hears that the Achaean forces were within the very walls of Troy, the elderly king was said to have adorned himself with his old armor to meet the threat. Hecuba and his daughters though convinced him that instead of fighting, he should seek sanctuary within the temple of Zeus. The temple proved not to be a safe haven though, for Neoptolemus, the son of Achilles, chased the wooden Polites, a son of Priam, into the temple, and as Priam sought to defend his son, who was already dead, Neoptolemus deflects the spear thrown at him, drags him to the temple's altar, and kills Priam. Another source states that he was dragged outside the temple and was killed there by Neoptolemus. With the city of Troy in ruins and the vast majority of the male defenders of Troy dead and the women kept as prizes of war, there is no one left to bury King Priam, and he was said to have remained where he died until the city crumbled away around him. Let us finish with the following saying: smiling through tears, Homer. That being said, remember guys to hit the like button and to subscribe to our channel, it would help us a lot. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for upcoming videos.